Hi there gang, welcome to another video. Issue number 26 of Warhammer 40k Conquest. So today we've got no models, but we've got some paints. So we'll get into that in a second. If you're tuning in for this competition, get right to the end and we'll talk about it then. So, issue number 26. Let's get straight into it. Learn about Reboot Gulliman, discover great unclean ones, and detailed paint guides. Now, paints for this week is our restock of Abaddon Black and Reichland Flesh Shade, which is a wash. So that's cool. Right, let's get into it. In this issue comes with a very important paint, Reichland Flesh Shade. The shade paint is used to shade any exposed skin on your models, though it is only used on some of them. It adds a great deal of depth into the areas it's painted on. Since many characters and squad leaders have exposed heads, this paint greatly improves the look of your most important models. It will also get a lot of use on Death Guard, especially where there's lots of exposed fleshy mutations to shade. We also have great background articles for you to read and 2 exciting missions for you to play through. So, in this issue, Age of the Imperium, learn about the history of the Imperium. Cicatrix Maledictum, discover the group of warp storms that divides the Imperium. Great Unclean Ones, these are the most powerful of Nurgle's demons. Possessed, Death Guard Warriors 4, these mighty Plague Marines are possessed by demons. Reboot Gulliman, read about the Primarch of the Ultramarines. And Blood Angels, the Blood Angels amongst the oldest and most revered of the Space Marine chapters. Then we've got our How to Paint, which we'll be adding on our shade. Then we've got a couple of missions. Rule mission number 9, finding Felthius. The Ultramarines search for Lord Felthius behind enemy lines and sever the head. Their target found, the Ultramarines launch an attack. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Right, so Age of the Imperium. After the Horus Heresy, mankind's institutions and organisations broke down completely as terror was nearly destroyed. The Emperor, having reached the end of his mortal life, only continued to exist thanks to his golden throne. Psychers began to emerge in ever-growing numbers and could barely be controlled. Despite increased precautions, the galaxy was consumed by war, and yet more dangers lurked amongst the stars. So that's cool. Right, okay, so what we've got here, Xeno's Rising M32, and if anyone remembers that M and the number after it, that relates to the millennium when it took place. So that's good. We'll come back to all this in a minute. Cicatrix Maledictum. A galaxy-spanning tear in reality, the Great Rift has brought with it a terrible darkness and has enveloped the galaxy and ushered in a new era of great war and madness. Okay. The Great Rift was caused by Abaddon the Despoiler, Master of the Black Legion. Okay, so this is good, more stuff about that. The Great Unclean Ones. To the eyes of a mortal, a Great Unclean One is perhaps the foulest of many demonic servants of the Chaos Gods. The Great Unclean One is created in the image of Nurgle himself, surrounded by buzzing flies. Their innards spill from their swollen bellies and pus pools at their feet. Yuck. Okay. Greater Demons of Nurgle. Demons of Legend. Death Guard Possessed. Cool, he's a pretty ugly looking guy. It's pretty grim. Most worshippers of chaosic power above all else, and the followers of the Death Guard are no different. Some Plague Marines choose to open their bodies to possession by demons of the warp, exchanging what remains of their humanity for the power they can provide. So this guy looks pretty crazy. I wonder if this is a model we're going to get, because he looks amazing. Okay, so then it goes a bit more into possession. Now we've got information about Reboot Gulliman. Primarch of the Ultramarines, Reboot Gulliman may be the last surviving loyalist Primarch, a living remnant of his father's great legacy. Dismayed by the state of the galaxy, he leads mankind against many foes that would tear the Imperium apart. Okay, so, and then it's got all stuff about him. We'll do a deep dive on all of this after we've been through it. So time stands still. I assume they mean for Reboot Gulliman on his golden throne. And a bit about his return. Then we've got some information on Blood Angels. The Blood Angels embody all that is good and noble, yet their gene seed also contains a severe flaw. Every Blood Angel fights a constant battle to control his own fury. Okay, that's good. Okay, so more about them. Okay, some stuff about our Shade. So our Shade goes on to Lieutenant Calcius, the Librarian, the Intercessor Sergeant, the Reaver Sergeant. And on the Death Guard it goes on Felthius, Foul Blight Spawn, Biologus Putrefier, Poxwalkers, Plague Marines. There's got to be some. Yeah, on the Mephitic Blight Hauler, quite a lot on him. I say him as a vehicle. And the Tainted Cohort. Okay, so that is good. Goes on the little Nurglings as well. Okay, and then we've got our rules missions. Finding Felthius. So this is good. Both the Space Marines and the Death Guard are vying for control of Corvon II's capital city, Barachius. The Space Marines have decided to make an attempt to cut off the head of the Death Guard leadership by locating and eliminating the foul Lord Felthius. So in this one, got a massive deployment area for the Death Guard, and then the Space Marines deploy off the very edge on both sides. So this is two units of 3 Reavers versus 3 Plague Marines and 6 Pox Walkers. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it seems a bit heavy on the Death Guard. Anyway, okay. So now we've got rules mission number 10, Sever the Head. And that again, Death Guard in the middle, like a last stand situation, just in a very small square in the middle. And then our don't know why it's numbered, but yeah, but then deployment from the edges for the Space Marines. But this is a larger battle, so we've got 5 Plague Marines, the Foul Blight Spawn, 12 Poxwalkers, Lord Felthius, and the Tainted Cohort against 5 Intercessors, the Redempted Dreadnought, 3 Aggressors, 5 Reavers, and Lieutenant Calcius. So that's good. Okay. And then our next 2 issues, issue number 27 and 28, are all about the Rhino. And it gives us so 27, Death Guard Rhino, a history of the Death Guard, and the Battle of Corvon II continues. And then number 28, complete your Rhino, learn about Mortarion, and add transports to your games. So that's pretty good. So let's take a deeper look at the issue, see what more we can glean. Okay, Age of the Imperium. Okay, the Scouring, Millennium 31. The surviving members of the traitor legions fled to the Eye of Terror in the end of the Horus Heresy. Loyalist forces dared not pursue them into the realm of chaos. The 31st millennium was marked by a massive campaign fought against those who had rebelled against the Imperium during the Horus Heresy. Loyalist forces, mostly led by the Ultramarines and the Space Wolves, drove the surviving traitors back. A huge number of enemies were purged from the galaxy, but the traitors were many. They included thousands of fallen army regiments, giant star fleets, whole Titan legions, elements of the Mechanicum, and the traitor Space Marine legions. Most of the surviving traitors fled to relative safety inside the Eye of Terror, a gaping hole in the reality that led directly to the realm of chaos. The traitor legions established new homes inside the Twisted Realm, and their primarchs began to ascend to demonhood. The surviving traitor Marines were declared excommunicate traitors, and all records of them were erased from the Imperial archives. The Scouring did not end with the flight of the traitor legions. In the war-torn aftermath of the heresy, the true scope of Horus's rebellion became clear. A great many more planets had helped the traitors than was first known. Some worlds fully embraced their corruption, others had been misled by the enemy. The search for the disloyal became a huge task. Many changes were made to prevent such a vast betrayal from happening again. Among them, the Space Marine legions were divided into chapters, and the Imperial army was split into the Imperial Navy and Guard. Suspicion, guilt and revenge now ruled the Imperium. From duty, work and death, there can be no respite. Okay. It's good. Okay, so different bits here. The Xenos Rising, Millennium 32. With the Imperium's strength sapped by the countless battles of the previous millennium, the Imperium was fully equipped to deal with the various alien enemies closing in on all sides. Even star systems once considered completely safe from attack found themselves besieged. Tragedy heaped upon tragedy as Reboot Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines and Lord High Commander of the Imperium, was mortally wounded by the demon Primarch Fulgrim. Then in Millennium 32 and 34, the Forging. During this golden age of the Imperium, the Adeptus Terra began to bind its most important star systems under ever tighter control. Astropath choirs were replaced in key positions across the galaxy, with major hubs on the best defended worlds, such as Armageddon, Bacca and Macragge. The Imperial cult became the official religion of mankind, and the ecclesiarchy continued to increase its control over the masses. Without the Emperor's direct guidance, the best direction for the Imperium was left open to interpretation. To avoid dissent and rebellion, strict rules were put in place. Fear ruled the highest levels of authority, while ignorance dominated the lowest levels of society. The Imperial's reign became ever more harsh and unforgiving. Nova Terra Interregnum, Millennium 35 to 36. Also known as the time of the two emperors, the Ur Council of Nova Terra denounced the High Lords of Terra and claimed rule of the entire region of space known as the Segmentum Pacificus. For 9 centuries, the Imperium was split in two. It was an age marked by civil wars fought for the reunification, disputes over trade terms and shaky alliances. Chaos cults were discovered behind many but not all of the uprisings. The corruption was so widespread that the 24th founding of the Space Marine chapters went horribly wrong, and the Grey Knights had to be called in by the Inquisition to deal with the threat. Okay, that's cool. Now the Cicatrix Maledictum, known as the Great Rift, the Crimson Path, the Mouth of Ruin, the War Spear, the Deathedian, Gork's Grin and thousands of other names. The Cicatrix Maledictum is a giant grouping of warp storms that has torn the Imperium in two. Its origins can be traced to Abaddon the Despoiler. Abaddon is leader of the Black Legion, a large force of Chaos Space Marines, heretics and mutants with a mighty fleet. Abaddon launched several invasions known as the Black Crusades into the Imperium. With each invasion, the Black Legion destroyed parts of a series of ancient alien structures that existed on many worlds. Doing this weakened the barrier between reality and the warp. Though the Imperium did not know it, these ancient structures kept the stuff of chaos from entering reality. Once the last of these structures was destroyed, giant warp storms tore the galaxy in two along its entire length. The Cicatrix Maledictum now runs across the Imperium, a roiling group of warp storms of epic size. The entire northern section of the galaxy, known as the Imperium Nihilus, has been completely cut off from the Astronomicon. Ships cannot navigate the spaces between the stars, and the whole region is plagued by the forces of chaos. Those worlds fortunate enough to be located outside of the Imperium Nihilus are not free from danger. Since the coming of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the vast majority of the Imperial worlds are now under attack from within and without. The Great Rift is visible on nearly every night sky. In some areas across the galaxy, it's impossible to look upwards, since even glancing at the madness in the stars above can affect the minds of observers. This is Abaddon's greatest work, to steal the heavens themselves and ruin the hope once inspired by their majestic beauty. This is our galaxy, ours to corrupt, ours to enslave. And then, so this is the look of the Cicatrix Maledictum. So there's quite a lot of images like this that have come out in previous issues, and this is the rift. The Cicatrix Maledictum is huge, and these are all the different areas that it cuts through. Okay, so that's interesting. So, Great Unclean Ones. So I've already read this bit. Great Unclean Ones are the leaders of Nurgle's plague legions. As horrifying as they are, these greater demons have great affection for their troops, which contrasts greatly with their nightmarish forms. They take pride in the achievements of their followers, whether it be victorious in great battles or the development of new poxes and buboes. Ugh. In battle, they revel in the joy of war, laughing to themselves as they urge their followers forward with encouraging praise. Each great unclean one is filled with desire to organise and direct the demonic rabble at his command. Those who are slow to join the fight are sternly reminded that they exist to serve Grandfather Nurgle. I love it when people say Papa Nurgle. It's cool. Reminds me of Christmas. Right, the burden of failure is the most terrible punishment of all. So, continuing with the great old ones, the greater demons, sorry, great old ones, that's Lovecraftian. Anyway, despite the care and affection for their own followers, greater demons of Nurgle are vicious foes in battles. They fly into deadly rages whenever their followers are harmed. Despite being slow and ponderous, they are almost impossible to destroy. They lumber forward, shrugging off wounds that would slay most beings. Bolter rounds disappear into their rancid guts, and blades have little effect on their bloated bodies. When they reach the enemy lines, they hurl their colossal bulk at their victims with all the force they can manage. Those that survive are quickly met with a rain of blows from filth-encrusted swords and flails. A demon of such power does not rely on his ability to fight, however. A great unclean one can vomit forth vile tides of corrosive filth and disease, or empower his followers with the noxious blessings of Nurgle. Grubeck's Poxlord, greater demon of Nurgle, has got a quote that says, "Riddle them with juicy poxes." Beautiful. Okay, demons of legend. The names of many demons are whispered across the galaxy. Their deeds are so terrible that mere mention of their name has mortals shivering with fear. Rotigus, the generous one, has led many devastating campaigns against the worlds of the Imperium. Kugarth Plaguefather led Nurgle's vast demon legions during the Plague Wars against Ultramar. Under the command of such powerful demons, the legions of Nurgle have caused billions of deaths and spread all kinds of foul diseases across the Imperium of mankind. Okay, so now we're on to Death Guard Possessed. In the Death Guard warbands of possessed warriors are rare. All Plague Marines enjoy the honour of carrying Nurgle's blessings within their rotting bodies. And for most this is enough. Yet there are those who offer themselves up to Nurgle's demons, so their bodies can become living vessels for demonic possession. The quickest path to power, however, is the most deadly. Demonic possession rarely ends well for the host. Those that open themselves to the demons of the warp quickly find themselves fighting for control of their own bodies. For most, possession becomes a form of slavery that ends in death and eternal damnation. A rare few can win the fight for control and use the power of the demon inside them. Regardless, they are all damned by the choice they have made. There is no substitute for zeal. Okay, so possession. When a demon is allowed to possess a mortal host, it can reshape their flesh like wet clay, moulding their form into the one it finds pleasing. The results of this painful process are different depending on the type of demon that possesses the host. In the case of the Death Guard, the demon will always be a servant of Nurgle. Possessed Plague Marines often find horns and antlers sprouting from their skulls. Their flesh will turn even more pallid and rotten or gas-bloated, and thick with fungus or slime. Some even develop bulbous insect eyes or needle-like mouth of a plague fly. Tentacles and mouths burst from torsos, and corrosive pus splatters from open wounds. Each possessed warrior is a unique, disgusting creature, their body corrupted by the demon within. Lovely. Okay, so gifts. When it's fully taken control of the host's body, the demon can offer many gifts. It can heal the body of its host with bursts of warp energy. When joined with a Plague Marine, their powers combine to create a truly fearsome creature. Unfortunately for its host, the price of such power is great. Should the Plague Marine die in battle, their soul is banished alongside their possessor demon, to be trapped forever as its plaything in the festering garden of Nurgle. Lovely. And possessed warriors, whilst demonic possession is relatively uncommon amongst the Death Guard, other Chaos Forces are far more willing to trade their souls for such power. The Black Legion and the World Bearers, for example, count many possessed amongst their ranks. These bands of warriors are expert trackers able to sense creatures through the warp, as well as in the material world. Their primary task, though, is to rip into the enemy with their giant rending claws and writhing tentacles. Few foes can withstand their charge. So that's good. Okay. So that's that done. So now on to the Space Marine side. We've got Reboot Guilliman. So we've already read this bit. The Avenging Sun, the Uniter, and the true master of Ultramar, Reboot Guilliman, or Guilliman, is the master of the Ultramarines and all their successor chapters. It was Guilliman who led the Ultramarines during the Great Crusade, directing his legions to victory after victory. His tactical ability and military organisation was judged superb, even by the standards of his Primarch brothers. He fought battle after battle in the name of his father, the Emperor of Mankind. He shared his father's vision for a new age of mankind. Unfortunately, the Horus heresy would shatter this dream. The Emperor fell in combat against Guilliman's brother Primarch, the traitor Horus. It was Guilliman who took up his father's sword and pledged to honour the legacy of the fallen Emperor. He resolved to take command of the forces of the Imperium during the battles of the Scouring. To question is to doubt. So his service record was the Great Crusade, the Horus Heresy, the Scouring, and the Indomitus Crusades. And his specialisms were, or are, tactical mastermind and expert politician. Okay, time stands still. It was the Ultramarines Primarch more than any other that rallied at the shattered Imperium during the Scouring. Guilliman's righteous fury was only matched by his sense of justice. His masterwork, the Codex Astartes, was soon completed, and he turned his attention to restoring the Imperium to some level of its former glory. Yet he would be given no chance to complete his task. He met his brother Fulgrim, now a demon Primarch, in the Battle of Thessala. Fulgrim was granted great powers by the Chaos god Slaanesh, and he struck Guilliman a mortal blow with a poisoned sword. Guilliman was taken from the battlefield and placed on stasis on the Ultramarines chapter planet, Macragge. Frozen at the moment of his death, the Primarch sat in stasis for over 8,000 years. During his absence, the Imperium changed from a realm of science and knowledge to a place of cruelty, fear and prosecution. When Guilliman was awoken from stasis and healed, he was horrified at the state of the Imperium, but he continues to defend it all the same. So Guilliman's return. Upon his return to the galaxy, Guilliman took control of the armies of the Imperium and reclaimed his position of Lord Commander. He still wields the Emperor's sword against his foes, every swing accompanied by a gout of flame. In his other hand, he wields the Hand of Dominion, a vast power fist with an underslung gun capable of unleashing armour-piercing rounds. Despite the long years in stasis, Guilliman's mind is as capable as it was during the height of the Great Crusade. He can devise strategies and calculate probabilities with a speed unmatched by any mortal man. His tactical mind is always many steps ahead of his enemies. He is pure reason in an age of chaos and superstition. He is hope in a galaxy gone dark. Since his return, he has communed with the Emperor. While he will not speak of their meeting, he left the throne room determined to fight on and defend his beloved Imperium against its many enemies. Guilliman's return of the dead inspires the people of the Imperium, giving them fresh hope in a time of darkness and endless war. His return to the position of Lord Commander was opposed by no loyal servant of the Golden Throne. His tactical abilities have since been proven by the successes of the Indomitus Crusade. Despite his best efforts, however, the galaxy remains shrouded in conflict and doom. The Primarch knows what he must do to secure the Imperium's future, and is resolved to continue to fight to preserve it. Okay. Nice. Okay, Blood Angels. Created during the first founding, the Blood Angels are one of the oldest and proudest Space Marine chapters. Blood Angels warriors have a great flaw in their psyche. They are prone to descending into a destructive rage known as the Red Thirst, and in times of stress, a warrior can be consumed by the Black Rage, a psychotic madness caused by the psychic echo of their Primarch's death at the hands of Horus. So, Blood Angels, homeworld is Baal. The Primarch is Sanguinius. Sanguinius is that new model that people have been going mad about. And when I say mad, it's because they either love it or hate it. Major engagements are the Battle of Terror, the Second War for Armageddon, and the Devastation of Baal. And their specialisms are jump troops, rapid strikes, and psychic warfare. Okay, creating an angel. Blood Angels recruits come from the tribes that inhabit the irradiated wastelands of Baal Secundus and Baal Prime. These initiates have braved radiation and terrible disease, with only the toughest surviving. During their induction, they are transformed from scarred, malnourished youths to tall, powerful warriors of great beauty. True faith is blind and justified. Commander Dante. He is the chapter master of the Blood Angels. He is thought to be the oldest living space marine. To his fellow chapter masters, Dante is a prime example of the fearlessness, dedication and strategic genius of the very best space marine leaders. In battle, Dante bears the Axe Mortalis, a weapon that can scythe through even the thickest ceramite armour. He also wears the death mask of Sanguinius. The mask radiates Sanguinius' anger and disgust at Horus's betrayal. Paralysing his enemies with fear or sending them fleeing in utter panic. And then it's got some different colour helmets, which are for Command, Veteran, Battle Line, Fire Support and Close Support. The Blood Angels do not follow the Codex Astartes to the letter, using different methods to display the battlefield role for each squad and warrior. Each Blood Angel's warrior's strategic role is indicated by the colour on their helmet. This shows other troopers where they fit into the chapter's wider organisation. The company that a Blood Angel belongs to is marked by the icon displayed upon their right shoulder guard. The emblem of the first company is a skull, while all other companies use coloured blood drops. If a brother descends into the Black Rage, he joins the Death Company. Members of the Death Company lose their heraldry, painting their armour black and taking on the icons of the Doomed. Okay. Death Company hold themselves into the Death Company hold themselves into the foe, barely controlled as they give in to their insane fury. They seek release from their psychosis through a glorious death in battle. Okay. So we don't need to go through the paint guide. Okay, so finding Felthius. Rules mission number 9. Intelligence has been received that places Lord Felthius in the northern districts of Barachius. Primarch Reavers have been sent on a mission to scout deep into the Death Guard territory and look for traces of the Death Guard leader. When they have secured enough intelligence, the Ultramarines will begin their attack on the Death Guard position and try to eliminate Felthius. Current information suggests that Felthius and his tainted cohort have been involved in fighting around the northern hab zones of Barachius. The Reavers must make their way to the Death Guard territory and search the 5 marked locations on the map. By fully scouting the area, the Ultramarines can set up the perfect ambush for Lord Felthius and give themselves the best chance of taking him down. Without his leadership, the Death Guard attack will lose coordination, allowing the Imperium tactical supremacy on Corvon 2. So marking victories. Play the Recon Assault mission on the overpage up to 5 times. The victories will affect the Decapitation Strike mission set on page 10. You can mark your victories on the map above in pencil or in pen. Cool. Nice, I like that. I like that idea. Playing it 5 times to gain some sort of tactical advantage, because you know you're only talking about a small mission of 6 units versus 9 units, and the Reavers and Poxwalkers are pretty much cannon fodder anyway. Okay. The Space Marines have sent several units of Reavers deep inside the Death Guard territory, hoping to scout the battlefield and find out where Lord Felthius is located. They'll have to make their way past the Death Guard patrols, moving deep into enemy territory. When deploying the Death Guard player rolls a d6 for each unit. The result determines which deployment zone the unit is placed in. In the first turn, the Space Marine units will move on from the map's edge shown above. Measure the move starting from the map's edge. Okay, so that's cool. So again, that's how Death Guard. That's how the Death Guard deploy. It's all on a dice roll, and then the Space Marines in from the edge. Victory conditions: the Space Marines must have at least one model The Space Marines must have at least one model reach the other side of the playmat before the end of the battle. As soon as the model's base touches the mat edge, the Space Marines win. The Death Guard must stop the Space Marines from reaching the other side of the playmat, and the game lasts for 5 battle rounds. Okay, and then finally we've got mission number 10, Sever the Head. Sergeant Castius crouched low at the edge of the hab block. Most of the vast buildings lay ruined, the outside walls smashed to pieces by exploding shells and crushed by advancing tanks. Death Guard patrols moved through the rubble, picking over corpses and shepherding poxwalkers into no man's land between the two armies. Castius activated his Vox unit and whispered over the channel. Squad Castius in position, over. Copy. Task force in position, over, came the clipped reply of Lieutenant Calcius. Castius and Calcius, nice. Okay. The attack can begin on your command. Courage and honour. Castius out. Courage and honour. Command out. Castius waved a gauntleted hand and his men scrambled into position, waiting for the moment to move. Castius's Vox unit buzzed into life again. This is command. All units commence attack. Furious bolter fire rang out and the battle cries of the Ultramarines could be heard above the din of combat. Squad Castius darted forward, covering the ground towards the enemy line with speed. The Death Guard were caught cold, but they began to respond. Plague Marines scrambled to return fire. Soon bolter rounds and blasts of plasma slammed into the ruined buildings around the Reavers. They kept moving, stopping only occasionally to hurl a grenade or keep the enemy at bay with a volley of pistol fire. Amidst the Death Guard warriors, Castius saw a hulking form of Lord Felthius, standing ready to meet the attack. A leering grin was on his face, and his giant scythe was in his hands. So, this is the transmission. Ultramarines Lieutenant Calcius, Corvon 2 defence. Purge the traitor, offer him no mercy for he is beyond redemption. Remember that we fight to preserve the glorious Imperium, and that with courage and honour we shall always prevail. Let the enemy feel the wrath of the Emperor. So that's good. Okay, and so the actual mission itself, the Space Marines now have the location of Lord Felthius and have broken through the Death Guard lines to confront him. Redemptor Dreadnought Tiberius leads the charge, lumbering across the battlefield to confront the Death Guard and eliminate their leader. So, the battlefield. The Death Guard player deploys in the zone shown. The Space Marine player does not deploy. Space Marines units will move into the map from the random edge in the first turn. Roll for each unit and check the map. This movement begins from the map's edge. So basically there is different numbers on the map's edge. So you've got 1 and 2 on the left, 3 and 4 on the right, 5 at the top, 6 on the bottom. And those numbers basically relate to a dice roll. So when you're deploying one of your units, you roll the dice, you deploy into the number that it tells you to. So we went through the armies before, but for a recap, we've got 5 Plague Marines, a Foul Blight Spawn, 12 Poxwalkers, Lord Felthius, and the Tainted Cohort, versus 5 Intercessors, the Redemptor Dreadnought, 3 Aggressors, 5 Reavers, and Lieutenant Calcius. So we've been through deployment as well. So the victory conditions, the Space Marines win the game immediately if they eliminate Lord Felthius. The Death Guard player must keep Felthius alive until the end of the game. The game lasts for 4 battle rounds. Cut off the foe's head and his body ceases to function. That's a Calcius quote there. So that's it. That's it. So it's a good informative issue. There's some good info in there. Some people would say it's a very boring issue because there's no lovely little plastic men to make up. But Reichland Fresh Shade's good, and it will make a big difference to the models we've got already. I dare say most people won't be running out of Abaddon Black, but if they are, whoopie-doo, you got some more. Right, let's have a quick update about the competition. So for issue 24 and 25, the competition prerequisite was that it had to have 3,000 views, and we didn't get anywhere near it. We were just over halfway there, unfortunately. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these together with the next competition which I'm going to run, which is for issues 27 and 28, and that's the Rhino. So the next prize will be the Rhino plus the Redemptor Dreadnought, plus I got an extra little prize, which is the Citadel paint pot. Now, before you chastise me for spending my money on something like this, I bought one recently, and it's much better than you would think. So good actually that I'm going to give a little review on it in the next few days. But so that's what the next prize is: Redemptive Dreadnought, the Rhino, and a paint pot. So thanks very much for watching, guys. That was a good issue. There's actually some really good information in there. I particularly enjoy the stuff about the Great Unclean Ones and Reboot Gulliman. That's very, very good information. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by donating to my PayPal. I'll stick a link in the description. If you want me to do anything specific with your donation, you can ask me to do that as well. That's absolutely fine. Anything that's donated will go directly back into the channel. And I'd also like to get a bit more engagement in the comments section. So, are you guys enjoying what I'm doing? Is there anything you want me to change? Is there anything I'm not doing that you want me to do? I'll be interested in all that kind of feedback. So, thanks again for all your support, guys, and I'll see you next week.